of Mindshifters Radio, and today is Thursday, July the 4th, 2024. And our calling number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. And we would love to hear your comments and questions, your show. And we'll give Michael a moment to dial in, and I'll invite you again to go to our website, whyagain.org. And if you click on either under the events or under schedule and click on Quantum Still Point, there is also the link now to where you can click and listen to Michael read the article, and this is on the What Is Into Being, Awakening Through Quantum Still Point. And he's going to be recording it again with background. It's actually going to be a frequency, and turn it into an actual meditation. So that's not complete yet, but you can listen to the reading that he did yesterday on the show, and it's edited out, so it is just the explanation and the reading of Quantum Still Point. And we hope that everybody has a safe 4th of July. If you're going somewhere for the weekend, I know a lot of families, ours usually goes out to the farm, and we do a family reunion the week of the 4th of July. Michael and I are not going this year, and it's going to be a lower number. My brothers aren't going to be able to go, and I know Ryan and Gabby both have to work, so they're not going to be able to go. So it's a smaller group going to be down there. We pray that everybody is safe, and wherever you are and whatever you do, that you are also safe. And I'm going to welcome Michael to the show.
And welcome, everybody. Delighted that you're here. Delighted that once again we get to go to another level of sharing this amazing information that comes from antiquity, and hopefully brought to you in the most accurate form possible in the English language, since the core of everything we're doing comes out of the first century Aramaic language, which, interestingly enough, is the root language of at least 5 of the world's major religions. But in no way, shape, or form does that mean that the Aramaic is a religious language. It's actually a language of physics. It's a language of physiology. It's a language of genetics. It's a language of this amazing and magnificent energy system in which we live, move, and have our being, and that we try to reduce to words. One of the chapters in my book is words could never say. It's never the whole truth of what it is that we're aiming for is never going to be spoken in words. When we ascribe words the ability to do that for us, we just went off on a wild goose chase, and guaranteed we'll never capture it, because it will never be captured in words. The best that we are ever going to get from words is that words will give us instructions to produce the result, and each person must produce the result for themselves. You can't do it on somebody else's BS belief system. If you have a different reality for those initials, I invite you to notice that's your reality. It's not mine. There is no way to do this through words. It only happens when we apply the tools that the words describe and outline for us. It only happens when we engage in the practice. And it's interesting, people want, it's like, yes, I have the question of the ages. For tens of thousands of years, humans have been searching, and all of the great intellects, and I've read all of the wonderful books of I've read the Spinozas and the Platos, I've read them all of them questioning, wanting to put into words the truth of it. And I got $5 in 5 minutes, tell me everything you know. Not going to happen. I'll offer that I have a little better than 50 plus years put into this process. And I readily acknowledge that I feel like a neophyte. I feel like I could literally, today, I could start today, and if I had 80 hours a day for the next 10 years, I could not engage in everything that I want to engage in, to comprehend, to understand, to expand, because what I've done in the last 50 years has put into my mind, into my awareness, how much there is yet to be explored in order to embody this, whatever it is. So it's not going to come via explanation. It's not going to come via words. Words are really important. They're a key process. In fact, you can kill yourself with words. You can bring yourself back to life with words. But it's the absolute, or the application, pardon me, of the tools described by the words that's going to produce the result. And so that's what we're here to do, is to do the best job we can to put it into a logical, rational, applicable form that makes sense, and hand it to a wide variety of people who can take it and apply the tools. Now, one of the games the mind will play is it'll take all sorts of things and put it in the middle of the tools. Our suggestion is that you let go of the need to do that and simply take the tools as presented, apply them in your world, collapse the constructs of the mind that are based in hostility or fear, breathe into the space where you've cut yourself off from the dynamics that are happening within your own system, and you will bring forward your unique comprehension, practice, and application of the tools. So that's where we're heading. That's what we're here to support. Had an interesting day yesterday. There's a group on a new program that I just downloaded called Telegram, and I spent a couple of hours with them last evening. Interesting group of folks, lots of questions, and a real and genuine desire to tools, acquire the understanding, and hopefully apply that understanding, apply the directives as to how to put the tools to work and how to move out of the space of generational patterns of hostility and fear that the mind applies to everything except itself, and bring that into expression. So delighted that you're here to be part of the process. Ms. Jeannie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up, or anything happening in the chat room?
There are no hands up, no questions in the chat room. Oh, a hand just went up, and I believe that it is Sunny, 765. You're on the air.
Hello.
Well, hey there, young lady. How are you?
Doing good.
That was a good session last night.
Yes, thank you ever so much. And, yeah, it went on until like after 10 o'clock last night. So very nice.
Oh, really?
Yes, really. I don't know if you saw my text.
So those meetings are an open-ended sort of thing then?
Well, actually, that group of people have brought their channels together in an organized fashion. It normally abides by a schedule, but it happened. There were technical difficulties at the 7:17 for them to start. Wednesdays is 3 hours. Saturdays, however, is still like a 6-hour window for us. But yesterday ended up being over 6 hours for us. There were technical difficulties with the people that were scheduled to come on at 7:17. So it was
Well,
perfect.
were there any other interesting questions that showed up after I departed?
Yes. To kind of wrap my mind around it, it was mostly a lot of it is the idea that people will, and they had to make the clarifications of, like former, abusive marriages, relationships.
To the vagus nerve, which means your period.
I'm hearing feedback there.
Excuse me, go ahead. No, that was my fault. I've got a TV in the background, and it actually just kind of popped in and started talking.
Okay.
So I had to catch her and
where
shut
people,
it down.
and it said, in terms of forgiveness, that, while I had to walk away from an abusive marriage and it was bad, and I'm like, well, yeah, you have to safely distance yourself and all of that, but from your distance, do you take the time to process through that, because that still kind of sticks with you otherwise, right? Or it can.
That's
definitely
the key.
Right, and establishing some of those clarifications for folks. And, it was kind of like, all right, so he's gone, he won't argue with us, but we're going to argue with her if we can. So it was very interesting. It was quite beautiful, actually.
Well, wait a minute. Tell me what that means. I'm not sure quite what that statement means.
Well, it was kind of that challenge. Let's see if she can answer the questions beyond his presence, but that just, I don't know what it is with you, Michael, that they just want to hear you as opposed to maybe hitting their mic. They're just more interested in what you're going to say next because they learn so much from you. And but they don't always answer their own key questions. So, but it's very interesting and yes, very much needed. And cannot thank you enough. It was very inspirational for especially the couple of young men who knew one of your former students, had been his teacher and one of his teachers, and then the other man was very intellectual on the understanding energies and frequencies and that type of thing. He very much enjoyed engaging in conversation with you and answering some of his questions that, it just seems that there's very few people who are of that like mind with him. So it was very refreshing for him to enjoy your mind and to be able to reflect with him on that level. So it was very, very nice overall. And
question.
Yes.
When we started, you recorded it. Is the section available that we did as a recording? I'd like to get a copy of it and put it on our YouTube channel so that it's accessible to others. I think the way the information came together, in particular, how that group drew the information out, I think it was really valuable and kind of unique with the questions that showed up. So I would love to get a recording of that section of it if you can provide that, or if you can provide the whole recording, we can cut it back.
Oh, I will definitely send that on to you, and whether or not it is encrypted in Telegram or your tech support can help determine how to get that out of there, and that would be delightful. That would be wonderful. But I'm happy to tell you what I do available.
Well, if you recorded it, if you wanted to play it, what do you do to play it?
I would send it to you as I've sent other messages in Telegram through the direct message. And then you just, there's 3 dots on there, but I don't know what that looks like. Maybe you can download it and then access it through other aspects that way.
But it's encrypted?
Yes, it may or may not be encrypted in Telegram. But
okay.
There may be a
way
to
download
All right,
we can let that go for now.
Download it and carry it out from there, right?
Cool.
Yeah, so very, very nice.
Were there any questions in particular that came up after I left that you have that you'd like to present and make part of our conversation today?
I think mostly just in the way that people believe that if they end a relationship or cutting off communication seems to solve their problem.
The geographic cure. That's a big belief in the culture.
yeah, either the geographic cure or that just totally cutting off communication and saying, well, I'm just not going to talk to you anymore. Then I don't have to face my stuff kind of thing. But, yeah, to be very interested in your particular take on that would be wonderful. And pulling into brunch here, so.
Yeah, I would definitely give a let's see, what would I describe it as? A bit of a cackle, as I just did, if someone asked that question in the session. And then I'd offer, notice how many times you've taken the geographic cure and you still have to come back and deal with it. Because the geographic cure, kicking somebody out of your life or disappearing from somebody's life, doesn't change any of the dynamics going on within oneself. It still has to be faced. My advice is, of course, it's up to everyone to make a choice as to whether or not it's time to, quote unquote, at least appear to put an end to relationship. I offer there's no such thing as putting an end to relationship. But one says, okay, so I'm never going to talk to you again, or going to see you again, or never going to hear from you again. That doesn't mean the relationship's ended. It means communication is ended. And when one does that, then, of course, they turn around and they get to play it out with somebody else and somebody else and somebody else. And, that's what really led to the writing of the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? As I shared on the podcast yesterday, the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, was titled from writing an article on relationships for a singles magazine in Florida, where I actually, kind of looked down at what I had been writing and realized that instead of the main workshop I do, which back 40-some years ago was entitled The Miracle of Forgiveness, ta-da, the article I was writing, and I realized that the title of the book was really the opening words in the article as I went back and reviewed it again, and it was, why is this happening to me again? And I don't care where people go, they take all of the energy dynamics that they've not dealt with them, and they're sooner or later going to have to work it through. So if somebody chooses to step away from relationship, my best input is, fine, you have a right to do that, and keep working through the issues that you have created in that relationship, or should I say more accurately, that you've co-created in that relationship, because if you don't, you're going to get to do it again. Pretty straight up.
Yeah, exactly. Love it, Michael.
Cool. Well, you sound like you're at your destination. So enjoy your lunch.
Thank you very much.
All right, I'll look forward to receiving that recording. You have my email address, right?
I believe so, and I'll make sure that we do.
Cool. All right, have a blessed one. Take care. All right, Miss Jeannie.
There's no other hands up.
Okay. Well then, let's go back to, I had started a session a couple of days ago, and we got partway through what I wanted to present. And so if we have no other questions, then I'm going to go ahead and pick up from where we left off on Friday to that yesterday, the last couple of days, because we're going to the quantum still point. But we had left off with the idea that there is a work to be done, and the method of handling repeating patterns in the mind is the tool of forgiveness. And that every energy we refuse to deal with, on Friday we had talked about it, and if you want to pick up, we spent pretty much the first hour or the whole hour on Friday of the show with the first half or portion of this presentation, kind of reviewing the whole forgiveness process, reviewing how it is that we create our lives. and to recognize that all disease and healing is an energy proposition. No. Dealing in fantasies, trying to fix a fantasy that is a fantastical understanding, a perceptual understanding of a problem, is kind of like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. As long as you're playing in the realm of perception, which is the realm where carbon-based memory, what's stored in your mind, interprets and creates structures of mind out of past content, trying to square and fix things up. I mean, things can get better. Again, the person who's on the Titanic at the early phases, if they're way at the back of the boat, picks up their deck chair and walks up and sits beside the band, and they're at the top end of the ship that's going to go down last, they got some benefits. They can hear the music. They're the last ones to hit the icy cold water, but the ship is going down. If you are dealing in a fantastical world, and my offering would be, if you're saying to yourself something like, why are they doing this to me again? If only they'd change, you're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Now, again, things can look and seem a little better. But in the long haul, that's totally and completely irrelevant. The need I would offer is to move into the realm of the actuality rather than the perceptual constructs your mind has about what you think is actuality. And so getting to the point of moving away from the fantastical understandings like, look how they're doing it to me again. If you move into the realm of the actuality, the cure of every disease is already known. And of course, everybody wants it. But few are willing to invest the effort it takes to do the work to exit the projected constructs of their mind that convinces them that everybody else is the problem in their life. And I say this from the perspective of having worked for almost 50 years to just offer the tools to every mind, heart, and being on the planet, that each has to change their own minds. Each has to change not the world around them in order to fix things and make things better, but each has to change the reality structures within their own minds. Each who wants to be freed of painful emotions and is blaming somebody else for those emotions has to move out of the realm of blame. They have to quit being devout members of the one world universal religion of blame and take responsibility for their emotions. Each has to take responsibility and recognize that the energies they're engaging in, they are engaging in, and what they're experiencing inside of them is happening inside of them. And each must ultimately develop the skill of being able to consciously enter literally every nook and cranny of their minds, their emotions, and their genes, their epigenetics, and begin to clean it up. That's just what has to happen. And if one refuses to do that, then crazy time happens again and again and again. And excuse me for just a second, I'm just inserting a little note in here. So each has to learn to decode the content of the hidden parts of themselves rather than projecting that content into the brain's image of everybody else and pretending everybody else is the problem. And of course, that decoding and removal process happens through forgiveness. And one has to face everything that never belonged in their structure everything at the root of their own diseases. If we have two people in conflict, we have two people in a dis-ease state, each with a different disease, each with a different energetic pattern. And if they're living in the classic way the world is living, each of them is pointing the finger at the other and missing the mark. Disease, I would offer, is not an entity that enters us and attacks us. It's a result of every disease, every disease. Well, Michael, there's this disease called a Mack truck. Somebody was walking down the road and they got hit by a Mack truck. Certainly that's not true about that. Yeah, it's true about that too. If you had been in alignment with the truth of who you are, you would have known long before the Mack truck got close to you that it was coming down the road, because you have a guidance system that's designed to warn you about everything. But if you shut it down, it seems like that warning isn't available. Every disease is a result of a creative process. And there'll never be a magic pill that takes care of this and fixes all of this for us. Yes, treatment, again, if you want to rearrange the deck chairs in the Titanic, hey, I do treatment too. You know, if there's a disorder going on in my physiology, I will take advantage of the best medicine that I know of. And that's nice, but treatment is not healing, and healing is not treatment. They are two separate things. Yes, engage in the treatment if you need to. It can ameliorate pain, can help you feel better, but it's an action of the deck chairs, and there's an improvement there. So I'm not saying don't engage in that improvement, but you better do the healing work that's involved. And the healing comes from the skills that we develop as we do our work. If you're interested in being free of whatever you've been carrying around, probably for generations, it's going to take time, significant time, to engage in the tools. And the tools are only for those that are ready to own the fact that they're creators and give up their infantile belief in victimhood and blame and the need for defensiveness and rage. If you really value that kind of stuff, then, you know, you're not ready for this, and that's okay. If you really, truly engage the process, you will, in engaging it, realize the self-destructive effects of blame, fear, rage, and its cousins, grief and loss, as you undo the brainwash of the fear-based world and are restored to love. The use of the tools that we're engaging here are going to profoundly change your life. And through the internal first century Aramaic process of forgiveness, ultimately what you'll get to do is you'll get to discover, experience, and express your own true nature, which is, regardless of what anybody else says or does or is doing or isn't doing, is truly the active presence of love.
And you have a hand?
So, oh, great, perfect time. Let me just throw in, if what I've said so far makes sense, what I'm going to invite you to do, if you haven't done, or if you haven't recently done the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, go to our YouTube channel. You know, go to YouTube, do a search, Michael Rice, R-Y-C-E. You'll be on our channel, and then look through and find the workshop, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And watch it again in the context of these words. Get a refresher. Now, and I don't care how many times you've done that workshop. You know, I'll tell you what. I developed that workshop I'm not even sure now, at least 45 years ago now. It's the first time I taught it. First time I assembled it. And there are days over the years, the last 45 or more years, where I have taught that workshop 3 times in a day. Every time I teach it, including the last one that I did, I learned more pieces of the puzzle. It seems to be an ever-expanding puzzle. So if what I've said so far makes sense, and you haven't listened recently, please go. It's free. You know, that workshop, up until, what was it, about a year ago we did that. It was, if you wanted it, you had to buy it. It is a product that's in our catalog. And if you want to support us, you know, you're certainly welcome to it free. But if you want to support us, then pay for it. You know, make a donation and support us in making the work available. But I strongly urge you, no matter how many times you've listened to that workshop, if it's been a while, go back and listen to it again. And what will happen is the last time you listened to it, you built some brain cells, but the brain cells weren't tied together in the way they will be this time you listen to it. And there'll be another level of insight. I mean, I can't count how many times I've done that workshop. I mean, as I say, 3 times in one day on occasion. I only did that once, but I was out in Arizona, out in Tucson, and the city of Tucson hired me to teach the workshop to city employees, and then I taught the workshop to the police department, and then I taught the workshop in their fire department. So I did the workshop 3 times that day. Otherwise, probably I've taught that workshop at least 70 times a year, 70 times a year for the last 45 years. And I get a new piece of the puzzle every time. So if you think you know it already, and maybe you've taught it, maybe you've engaged it more times than I have, but if you think you know it, go back and watch it again, get another level of brain cells, and watch the next level of your work unfold. And let's say hello to our caller.
It is Miss Susan, 610. You're on the air.
Oh, welcome, young lady.
You want to talk to me today, Michael and Jeannie?
Of course.
That's nice.
That's 2,000%. I love your inquiring mind, and you're going for it. I mean, Susan, I'd like you to recognize, I mean, literally, over the last 4 or 5 years, you have been one of the most inquiring minds, and you've been one of the mainstays of this show that keeps coming up with questions, that keeps it expanding and keeps it going. And you're appreciated for that, whatever it is that you bring up. So go for it.
It's mutual. What you are talking about right now, in fact, when you said to Jeannie, before you put the caller on, I want to say one more thing. And you said the one more thing that I wanted to hear, but I still have a question beyond that. You tell me that you're still learning, and I love that you're still learning. And you're implying that, you know, if you live together, you'll live forever, you'll keep learning. If you drop the body at some point, you may not have all the pieces together, even yet, but the quality of your life will have been improved and improved and improved, and you will improve the people who follow you in the generations. I get that.
Each time, yes.
Each time. We have the little habit of sending a teaser out, a little comment or something, with our support group link every week. And I sent it to you because it's relevant to this question. And the question was, is there one issue, or is it, one major issue that you've been working on? How are you doing it? How are you doing after working on it for years? And I have worked on it to the point where my life, it's like it doesn't happen all at once. My life is so much better. I'm reading old journals, and I see how much, what's the word? Backing and filling and suffering and fantasizing, deck chairs being moved here and there, but I knew that wasn't doing it. I knew the fantasies were not anything more than like taking a drink for an alcoholic. They provided a little satisfaction now and again. Always about somebody I was focused on who had the exact kind of garbage and good stuff that made it impossible for us to have a real connection. And thank God I had the capacity to have healthy relationships too, friendships on both sides of the fence. Thank God for that. But I feel as if in my physiology I carry a bruise, and I don't say that to blame my mother, you know all about that. It's just, it's there. Yeah. It's a condition of my life. It's been a gift because I've learned so much. I've gotten to the point where I recognize from 2 miles away when I'm going to be in trouble if I pursue this friendship or relationship in a certain way. I've learned how to navigate.
Could I just maybe adjust that phrase just a little bit?
Sure.
And rather than you're going to be in trouble if, what I hear you really saying is, here's a relationship my intuition tells me is going to show me the next layer of my denial and what I need to deal with.
Right. Oh, perfect. That's perfect, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. And
that's it.
I've gotten to the point where I can carry on a friendship or a relationship, be productive, and I can feel when I'm tightening, and I use those words, softening and allowing and breathing, looking at, using the tools, and getting my pontoons right, getting the ship righted, turning in the right direction. But the issue hasn't gone. And my question is, you say, you know, you're still finding pieces of the puzzle. Do you think there's ever a time when that puzzle will be complete? And could that happen while we're standing on the earth?
My take and my offering is, I think at the point where our minds can fully comprehend everything that the new Webb telescope is showing us, then our growth will probably be complete. I think that's the capacity we're designed for. In the meantime...
So you'll have to...
Go ahead.
You're going to have to explain the Webb telescope.
The Webb telescope... Yeah, you've heard me talk a few times about it. But, I don't know, it's a year or so ago that they came up with this new telescope that makes the Hubble look like a child's toy. And it's showing us that where we thought the limit of the universe was, like I had this big beach ball and I thought, oh, that was the size of the universe. And what the Hubble telescope, did was tell us that the universe that we think is out there, that we think we know about, is not the size of the beach ball that I have, but rather is the size of the Superdome.
Yeah.
And so it's expanded our awareness that much.
Yeah.
And my take is that this human instrument that we have is designed to be able to function within that whole expression and comprehend and function consciously within it.
But
so I don't think it's going to be finished till then.
And the dome isn't the whole picture either. The dome
and that's still probably just a start. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And so ultimately the objective is to bring into that capacity the full incarnation and expression of who we are as created beings. And to do that, and when you started out the conversation, you mentioned one problem. There is only one problem. All of humanity, all of the dramas and traumas and, murders and separations and wars, there's only one problem, and that is me. One problem in my life, and one problem in your life, and it's the same problem for you as for me, as for everybody else, and that is that I made something more important. I had a goal that I made more important than staying connected to the truth of who I am.
Yeah.
Oh, if only he would just do this for me. If only she, if only they.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate problem. So, how many goals do I hold in my finite mind that I need to be canceling so that I can process the trauma and drama that I hold from my life and from my generations, to be free of that, and then to, the scriptures talk about coming to the Creator empty-handed. I think it actually meant empty-headed. Free of all of that so that we could bring our full expression into this playground or this Garden of Eden that we're designed to inhabit.
Well,
and we can't get into the playground if we're hauling along with us one untoward energy that's based in something other than love.
The cool thing, though, Michael, is that you can get one big toe in that garden, even though the garbage bag is dragging behind you. And then you have a
That's inspiration.
And then and you have that affirmation, and you can see the possibility. And I have one example in my life and I didn't do it. It was a friend. There was a young woman who took a shine to me in New Haven years ago, and she's a married woman, has kids. There was a lot of trouble in her marriage, and there were some generational lacks that just exactly mirrored mine. We never knew that. You can feel it. And she developed this incredible attachment to me. I've told you about her. And she did something that I haven't been able to do. Maybe I have, and I don't remember who, but we stayed friends throughout her having, tremendous expectations and hopes for a kind of relationship with me that I couldn't give her. But I was always loving to her, and she was always open with me as much as she could be, because she has a real prejudice against homosexuality, for instance. It made it so unacceptable that she even felt that way, that we never discussed it directly until yesterday. Finally. I know. It was a breakthrough, and we were talking on the phone, and I told her I was reading old journals and how much I appreciated her, because she didn't throw me out when I didn't give her what she wanted so badly, which I knew she didn't want from her healthy life, from her present life. And she said, I was able to convert that energy into what I can tell you is a deep appreciation and love for you, and a great friendship that seems perfectly healthy. And I said, how did you do it? Because I think with the ones who have meant the most to me, I think I'm doing it with one person, but basically I had to pull the geographic and shut a door and just say, I can't go there. The trigger's too great. I don't have enough tools. You introduced these tools. I used the tools. I got a good handle on where the error was, which was in my thinking altogether, but it still never worked out as wonderfully as this has. And she's a missionary to Africa, and African Christianity is in a very different place about the issue of homosexuality completely. She's going there to lecture and tour and run a convention. She's a shiny woman, very bright. But we are able to talk, and we've translated the shifting of the chairs and stuff on the Titanic. We've discussed it in terms of our deepest longing that can be translated into creativity, which is acceptable across the board.
Right. Sublimation.
And I think, well, I hope it's more than that. I hope it's really more than that, but I couldn't say at this point. But anyway, all I want to say to you is that you can get a lot of yourself into the garden without having completed the work. This is my experience.
Absolutely.
I've experienced more joy in the last year than I have in my life, and it was affirmed by all the complaining in my journals and machinations and longings, and they're not readable. I was thinking, do my kids want to read this? No way. I don't want anybody reading this stuff. Oh, how embarrassing, But anyway, I just wanted to say the tools they're like a little, it's like you rolled out a carpet. It's quite narrow. If you walk on that carpet, you can pass through the gate.
I'm with you 1,000%.
Great.
One of the things that strikes me is that, and this is just an insight for me in my process and in working with people, is that there are events, energetic events, that when they're going on in our physiology seem so deep, so traumatic, so painful, so hopeless and unresolvable, and one feels helpless in the face of it, that it seems like it could never be changed.
Yeah.
And to me, the beauty of the fact that whatever that is, whatever the depth of the suffering is, the horror, the insanity, that none of that touches being. And when we use the tools to bring that to being, because being always remains, no matter what goes on in our affect world, being always remains shiny, new, and untouched. And the instant we make the space to bring it in, whatever that was, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean we don't remember it, but the trauma of it is gone. It can be remembered. I remembered how much I suffered with that, but it's not suffering anymore because we've traded in the fraud of the mind for the truth of being. And that's, to me, that puts so much hope into whatever struggles people are going through, to recognize that the state of being, the created essence that we are, is still untouched by it.
You have just put your finger on something that's held me back, and I hope it'll stop right now. I have had the belief that if I give up that dream, that unhealthy dream altogether, I will be muted. My spectrum of colors will be gone. Something will be taken away. And you're saying the opposite, that if you really go there, you won't lose anything. You'll gain.
Precisely. There's only gain. There's only gain in that.
Yeah.
Because everything that the ego presented that looked like, this is now going to make me happy.
Right.
The only thing it can do, if we get what we want, is make us happy. Or I should say, elicit happiness. The dopamine hit that happens as a result of it, we say, this is happy. But happy doesn't even approach joy, which is what comes from touching into the essence of who we are, the essence of what the Creator is. And all of that, however the mind puffs it up and fluffs it up and makes it traumatic and makes it mental illness and makes it emotional, turmoil and deficiency and addiction and all of that stuff pales when you bring the light in, when you bring being in.
So,
and when one's stuck in the ego structure, it seems like, well, but who could ever get out of this morass? Who could ever free themselves? Well, the truth is, all you have to do is open the gate and bring in the light, and dissolution happens.
Yeah. Well, I trust that that's true. I've gotten glimpses, but I'm not there. I can tell that I have a professional relationship with someone, and I manage it very well. I know my triggers, and I know how to work with this person. So I just draw lines, and I feel safe within the lines. But I would rather just be friends, and have there be no weirdness in my thinking or feeling. And I'm not there yet. I know how to do it all externally, but I'm not there yet.
Right. I hear you.
I'm just, okay.
Next worksheet.
No, God, Michael, what do you mean next worksheet? Then no end.
That's what I said. Or maybe the next 77 times 70 worksheets.
Yeah.
What's the goal that's involved?
Yeah.
What is it, in that, look at that circumstance that you just spoke about, that relationship and all the parameters of it. And if you were able to say, from the point of view of, whatever this turmoil is, if you were to be able to say, now, Bill, whoever it is, here's the result that I want from this. What would it be?
It wouldn't be a
that's
healthy
rhetorical.
answer at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's okay. But whatever it is, then cancel that goal. That's your next worksheet. Take that, put it in number 5A, and cancel your goal for it, and see what is beneath that. Because when you cancel your goal and that collapses in on itself, it'll give you access to the next layer of your own unconscious mind, your own dissociated content, which holds the discontent, the upset, the pain, the trauma. And when you open and let that come forward in the presence of love, then that'll just be one more issue that's, boom, out of the way.
Yeah, well, I have done that, but I obviously haven't done it. I could go through that worksheet right now, and I know what I want, and it won't come to a good resolution yet. So
right.
The stuck point. Yes. Okay.
So that would be so you do that one, and then once you do that one, then what's the next descriptor of what the perfect outcome would be? And then you cancel that one. When they said to Yeshua, well, how many times do you have to do this? Is 7 times enough? No.
It's always the same.
77 times 70. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. The goal doesn't change. That's
right.
That's the stuckness. The goal remains the same.
Right.
And so
then,
I don't know.
Then you might cancel that goal 77 times 70 times before you get to the root of what's underneath it that creates the discontent, that keeps you separated from who you are as the active presence of love.
Say that again, Michael.
So it's just another.
I need every word of that.
What is the next goal and the next goal and the next goal that keeps you separated from your own essence? What is it that, I shared with you, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, that after 50 years of working on the issue of my relationship with my father, and gone through layer after layer. One of my first processes was that of being belittled to tears as a small child, and asthma tying in as a result, and so many layers. And I'm doing a still point session, and I'm talking 50 literal years of work with the issue around my power person. And in that still point session, my father came forward, and I was able to literally embrace him, and this is, to me, was the signal that I was complete with that issue.
That's fantastic.
And that was that I was able to embrace him just as dearly as I embrace my granddaughter, who, is just total, complete, unreserved.
Yeah.
And it was a completion point for me.
That's
When
fantastic.
is your completion point? When is your completion point going to be around this issue? Who's the real object of attention in the issue? Is it you? Is it the goals you hold for you? Is it the goals you hold for this person? Is it the goals that you held for mother? Is it the goals that you held for father? At what point, do you process through? When Yeshua said 77 times 70, I do not believe the disciples were doing the math and saying 7 7 is 49, carry the 4, and trying to figure out exactly how many worksheets they were going to do.
Right.
In essence, what he was saying is you will do, and that's what I realize now for me. There are many times through working on that issue with my power person, who was pretty brutal, that I was like, I'm in a pretty good place with him. I could, I wish Dad would walk in here right now and be able to go over and hug him, and, it'd be cool. But until about just a few weeks ago, when I did that still point session, I could never have held him the way I held him in that session.
Wow,
I couldn't have done
that is so fabulous. I can feel that. That is so wonderful. But that
so is
led
it
you to feel...
Is it you that you're going to have to be able to hold in that space? Is it
Absolutely,
him
that's
or her?
What it is. Yeah, it's me. It turns back to me. I can't accept. If you told me, Mom, if you told me that you absolutely always loved me, welcomed me, admired me, treasured me, I wouldn't believe you, because I know otherwise. Where the heck? That's what happens. And so to be able to feel worthy of accepting what she probably was trying to give me for years, and I wouldn't accept it. I didn't want it. I didn't trust it.
I know that one. I can remember exactly when I played that exact one out with my father. My father ran a steel mill. They hired students to work in the mill during school between grade 11 and grade 12, and they have several hundred students. And at the end of the summer, when we all went back to school, they get reports from the students. And my dad went through these reports, and prior to that, I could do nothing right, and he got the report, and I had the best report of every student in that work that summer there. And at that point, Dad started to offer me the keys to the car. Yeah. And at that point, I said, F you.
Right. You knew otherwise.
Too late. Too late.
Too late.
And that was about me. That wasn't about him. That was about me.
Absolutely.
That was about what I needed to process through.
Right. Okay. We're right up against toenails against the wall.
That's what it takes. That's the process. And everybody wants, I got $5 in 5 minutes. Let me be finished with my work now. And, we are literally working to answer the question and do the work that every genius mind in history that's written all the wondrous spiritual books and the tomes and the, all the stuff that we're pursuing the question that they were pursuing.
Yeah.
And it's about doing our work.
It really means unhitching the wagon from that person and hitching it to God.
Well, I would hear it just slightly differently. I would put it in the realm of undoing the trauma in me that defends against the active presence of that love flooding into me.
Okay.
Because that active presence of love that we call God, and we have no idea what that really means, that energy is always sitting at the gate saying, when are you going to open the gate and let me in? I'm here to flood you. I'm here to fill you. Why are you holding it out? You know?
Yeah.
Why are you holding it out?
Yeah, I believe it. Thank you, Michael.
And then,
2 o'clock.
And then,
yeah,
and then every person that once you let it in, you turn it to them and offer it.
Mm.
Thinks they don't deserve it. And that will be their work to let it in.
Yeah, that's true.
And there'll be nothing that you or I can do to give it to them. All we can do is stand at the gate, flood the gate with it, and the work is the act of them opening the gate to let it in.
Oh, that was so good, Michael.